Hi, it's Caroline Owen with the Wild Women Expeditions, and I'm here with our guides from Scotland from our Horsing Around in the Highlands trip. We have Cara on the left and Nikki on the right of the screen. And welcome. Thank you for joining us today from your lovely home overlooking your horse field there in Scotland. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's a gorgeous day here as well. So it's lovely to see your farm. And talking about this trip, it's a brand new trip for Wild Women. I know some of our members have gone with you guys separately and have raved about your horses and the trip. So I'm curious, who is this trip suited for? Like, who is this? What kind of rider should be signing up for your trip?
I think we like adventurous, fun people. That's who we're aiming for. You don't have to be the best technical rider in the world. But you definitely want to have a sense of adventure. You want to see something different, do something perhaps different from you do at home, and just be open and willing to the adventure, I guess. We don't just walk the whole ride. Definitely you want to have confidence trotting for some distances when we cover the ground. And we ride English style, which we'll talk about, I'm sure. So you want to be quite confident and comfortable rising trot posting. And I think if I could give any of you one tip before they come on a trip with us, is get doing some squats, feel that burn on the legs a little bit. You definitely want to feel quite comfortable with that. You don't have to be some super Ironman athlete, but you definitely want to have a bit of strength in your legs so that it's more comfortable for you during the journey. We have lots of opportunities for a canter and even the gallop on the beach. But the faster work is very much for those that want to do it. At each point where we have some really fast work, we can differentiate the ride. There's always two guides with you. And so those that want to let loose and go full gas can have that experience. Those that want to take it a bit more sedate pace can enjoy watching the others horsing around from a safe distance, and just they can take it at a relaxed pace. But everyone has to be comfortable rising trot for sure.
Great. Awesome. Thanks. It sounds great. What kind of horses are you actually doing all of this rising trot on?
Well, we have a whole selection of horses. We have everything from Billie Jean, who's a 16-odd hand racing thoroughbred, to some island ponies that are of good character. I mean, none of them are plods, and they're all well behaved and well trained, but we have quite a big selection. So we kind of pride ourselves on matching horse to rider and getting the horsenality, if you like, of matched with whoever's, what the rider is looking for. And I think generally we've done pretty well at that. We've only had a few times when people have asked to change, and that's fine. We can usually accommodate that, but it's quite rare. And each of our horses have their own fan clubs. There's as many devoted puzzle admirers as there are devoted admirers of Billie Jean. And they're a fun bunch. We like horses that are willing to try, willing to do different things, and don't and like to be ridden independently. We're not so interested in a kind of one behind the other sort of scenario. So we want everybody who comes to feel that they're riding their horse, not just plodding along in a line.
I think so. We want to feel like it's your horse for the week, you feel like you feel invested in that horse. You got to love that horse to take care of it for the week and to enjoy it. And out the window you're seeing mostly our more native breeds. So there's some Scottish Highland ponies. I don't know if you can see the tiny black one just passing in the back. That's a Shetland pony, so that's as Scotch as it gets. So these are we call them good doers. They live off fresh air. They are very easy to do through the winter. And as Nikki says, there's some more racy horses at the other end. They're kept in a different field, but come the summertime, the herd all come back together.
Wonderful. Yeah, it looks like you got a really great selection of different horses for all sorts of different levels of rider. And it really is an art to get the rider and the horse matched up. So it's great that you have a really good success rate at that, because it is such an important relationship going through the week with that same creature, you know, working with you the whole time. So wonderful. And so when you're riding these horses, are you typically using English tack, Western tack? What is it like, the tack that you're using?
Yeah, it's all English tack and general purpose saddles, but we spend quite a lot of time and effort and energy in getting the saddle fit just right for the horse. Obviously, they do long distance. We want them to be as comfortable as possible, but also our bottoms have got to endure that saddle for 6 hours. So it's pretty important that also the rider's comfortable. So if I can swing you around, I'm going to show you a couple saddles, if I may.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
And I'll give you an idea of what you're up against. So, are you close enough to see? Let me slide you in. So this is a general purpose English saddle. We have them in some are synthetic, some are leather. But all I'm trying to show you is they're not the horror stories that people imagine of an English saddle. You know, they have some padding, they're comfortable in the seat. Everything comes with a safety stirrup, so there's plenty of space for your feet. People often worry with English tack about getting their feet caught in stirrups. Wouldn't be the first time we've had guests arrive with their own stirrups because they're worried about this. So we just want to put you at ease. The tack is all geared up and ready for what you need. We have a saddlebag attached to every horse, so there's a little bit of space for personal items and waterproof bum bags. So if you need to keep your phone in, and when we're in the beach, or if we get a splat of rain, you can keep your own personal things dry. But yeah, well cared for kit, comfortable for you, and really comfortable for the horse. That's our number one priority. We're really big on our horse welfare, so they have lots of fluffy stuff. Sheepskin girth sleeves, so that's under the tummy. All our saddle pads are sheepskin as well.
Nice.
And we run with these ProLite pads, which have foam liners in, which again help to just get the saddle fit perfect for the horse and the rider. And sometimes people see this and they think, oh my goodness, I'll never be able to cope with all those different layers. But that's a big part of our job when we first meet everybody, is making sure everyone's comfortable with the gear. We want you to feel like this is your horse, so we want you to be involved in getting them ready in the morning. I think the horses appreciate that too. If they feel like, you know, you've been a part of getting them ready before you jump on, I think that suits everybody. And again, that's an important part of the adventure for us, is that you're a part of that. So don't worry, we will make sure you know how to deal with all the gear, and we're always there helping you. We're not going to just abandon you and leave you to tack up, and that's not what it's about. But yeah, hopefully that puts you at ease a little bit, that it's straightforward. Similarly on the bridles, they don't neck rein. So for some people, that's a worry.
Mm-hmm.
They're all in quite gentle snaffle bits. I mean, see this sort of French link, loose ring, all very gentle on the horse. And we ride with 2 reins in our hands. That being said, when we're just trundling along, easy-ozy, the horses are very relaxed and used to long rein. They're not going to expect you to be taking the contact and riding like a dressage rider for 6 hours. That's not the name of the game. The horses move off your leg very well. That's the same as any horse, really. But the rein contact obviously is slightly different. If you're used to neck reining, they don't understand neck reining. They're getting increasingly forgiving with it as time goes on, and they learn that some people are talking a slightly different language. But again, we're there to support that, so people needn't worry. If they've never ridden English before, it'd be great to have a lesson or two before you come, because you would just feel more comfortable, I think. But if you find yourself coming to Scotland and you've never done it before, don't worry. We'll soon get you sorted within the first half hour of the ride.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Wow. You talked about how important it is to sort of tack up and groom the horses, because that's part of the connection with them and the connection that the riders have with their horses over the week. But I understand you also foster that connection with some groundwork and some horsemanship work. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely, certainly. So we usually like to start holidays with some games about communication and just thinking about horse language. You know, people often worry, is it Western, is it English, is it Spanish, whatever the style is. Horses all speak the same language, no matter where they're from, and it's about us understanding what the key cues are with them. And it's all about body language. It doesn't really matter what the aids are when you get on top of them. I think if you can establish that connection from the ground before you start, you're a long way ahead before you even put your foot in stirrup. So we like to play some games. Some people, if they've ever done any work with Pat Pirelli, will recognize some of the games from that. We also worked with the late Peter Campbell. So again, might recognize some of his techniques, but it's all sort of that Tom Dorrance line of pressure and release, but being about the release more than the pressure, so that we've got that, we know if we ask of something, we give the horse the opportunity and the benefit of the doubt to try and understand. But we play, as I say, some games in the house, first of all, which just help us all to think about how we communicate, because we're so, I think, lazy sometimes as humans. It's all about the words, but actually, even as human beings, an awful lot of our communication is about our body and our gestures and even our facial expression. And we don't think of horses recognizing that, but they absolutely do. So I think we just try and open people's eyes a little bit to that, so that they can play with that over the week, and they get a lot more out of their horse because of that. And I think for a lot of people, it can be an eye-opener about themselves as well, just understanding how the horse perceives them. We play another game where we use the same horse with every person to see how the horse interacts differently with different people, and how, as people, we all have something to learn from each other and from the horse. So it's a safe, sort of warm environment that we're trying to encourage people just to explore some of these ideas.
Wonderful. It
And also
reminds me a little bit of the assisted therapy with horses that's very common, or becoming more common these days, those kinds of interactions. Yeah. Nikki, were you going to
certainly, if I'm
just about because we, over a week, it's quite a nice amount of time to build up the trust between you and your horse. And so these games, this sort of building up that communication, because obviously the horse knows it's a different rider, and so maybe they're thinking, well, what's this rider going to be like? And so we like to help people to develop that relationship, so that the rider trusts the horse, but also the horse trusts the rider. And then you get this we can go anywhere together feel, which is what we want.
Yes, when we trust each other, magic can happen. That's wonderful. Now, at the end of the day, where are the women staying? And do they go to different places each night, or are they staying in the same place? What are the accommodations like?
Accommodations here at the farm. We have we've got a 150-year-old stone farmhouse here. We have guest rooms. It's very peaceful, very quiet, but it's all been done up to quite a nice standard. They're comfortable. All the meals come here in the glass room, so you're looking out over the valley. Sometimes the horse is coming up and the sheep coming up. We get an amazing run of wildlife down here. The buzzards and harriers and herons, all kinds of different animals, deer, foxes. We can just sit here and watch from the window. So that's really lovely. The food is all cooked on the premises by us. We have our vegetable garden out the back, so your veggies come out of the garden, the eggs come from the chickens. We've got our own little flock of sheep up the hill, which honestly is the best lamb ever. It's so good. And we are just about to have some pork. So we've got our own little, I don't know, is it herd of pigs? We've got
like a pack of pigs, a herd of pigs.
A pack of pigs.
Oh, that's great. It sounds like you're very self-sufficient there. That you don't need a whole.
It's an interest of ours to try and be as self-sufficient as we can, and also we like to make the food that you get as far as possible is made from scratch. So if you have tartar sauce, we make tartar sauce. If you have a pie, we make, we try to make everything just because that's how we like to do it. And so the food here has become, we want that to be as much a part of the experience and the feeling of a bit of luxury when you come back after a ride as the riding. that's kind of our plan.
And if you like seafood, the one thing we
yes.
don't grow on the farm is seafood, but the seafood literally comes straight out the water. We usually have a big prawn night one night with whole langoustines, which if people haven't tried before are amazing. And again, we'll help you how to dissect them. But they come out the water the afternoon that we eat them that night. So stuff is pretty much fresh off the plate.
Amazing.
And
I
they're so
understand
good.
there's places there to forage for food, that you can pick food in the wild, and that we do this on the trip. Is that true?
Yes.
Hey.
Now, I trained as a botanist, and before we did this, that was my job. So I'm very interested in plants, and there's a lot of edible plants growing just around the farm and on the seashore. So we want to share that with you and take you around and, pick your own salad. It's great fun. It's great fun just to go and see what it is that you can eat, what parts of the plant you can eat, when you can eat them. It's part of the whole experience, kind of living off the land.
I love it.
You might be grasping. We're pretty obsessed with food.
Yeah, we are.
Well, here I was imagining we'd be standing in the fields with the horses foraging for our dinner.
Yeah. Not grass, not the grass. You leave the grass for the horses. I'll show you what the other bit.
I mean, lockdown, what do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention. And during the start of lockdown, we made a pact that we weren't going to go to the shops and we'd just see how long we could survive. We did pretty well, and we weren't, just eating scraps and rubbish stuff. I mean, Nikki made this amazing nettle haggis one day, which was a total experiment, but it was delicious. And it's amazing. I think we've lost touch with those sides of human nature, and actually it's just a nice opportunity. You're somewhere different. That's what I say, try something different on for size. If this is not something you do every day, just give it a go.
Oh, I love that. I love it. I got into a little bit of foraging last spring too with lockdown. Same sort of thing. It's like, if I can forage more, I don't have to shop as much. So we do get very creative when the times call for it, for sure. So back to the riding a little bit. I'm curious about what kinds of places you ride in. Like I understand there's some beach riding, and what are some of the other highlights of the trip where you go on the horses? Or in general, highlights.
Yeah,
I think there's some
so
horses too, right?
Yeah, of course. We ride as the trip builds. We sort of start with quite a nice easy day in the woodlands on a lot of sort of forestry tracks, more even ground, so that people can start to just get a feel for their horse and how it operates. And then as the trip goes on, we push the terrain. So in fact, one of the photos I think on your website is of one part that we navigate where it's some pretty steep ground, where you've really got to pick an exact route to help the horse, keep their footing as easy as possible. We cross a lot of rivers, we climb some pretty steep days. Everywhere on this ride you can stay on the horse, but you get into points where you're having to really help the horse because the terrain is steep, and so you need to stay balanced, you need to get off their back a little bit, and that's part of the adventure. Is we love to test where we can get a horse to. They're pretty 4x4, and it's amazing where they'll go. So there's some slower days where it's all about big terrain, massive landscape views, feeling like you're on top of the world. Other days where it's intricate and in and out of the trees. And then of course the beach days is usually a highlight because you have that wide open space. The scenery is to die for down here. We can see out to some of the closer islands and then out to Ireland as well. So the views are pretty spectacular. And for me, it doesn't matter all the sophisticated things I've ever done on a horse. There's still nothing like the feeling of galloping down the beach, kind of arms out, sand blasting in your face. And as long as it's not too freezing cold, the weather, most beach rides, if people are game for it, we end up going swimming with the horses. So we kick off the saddles, strip down into our smalls and get on bareback and go for a swim with the horses. And that's a really lovely experience. The swimming itself is quite special, but then afterwards, just playing with the horses in the sand. For me, that's one of the highlights of the trip. I think it really demonstrates the trust you built up with your horse in that moment.
Although I should say, some of the other highlights that we've had, feedback from people is we often do kind of games days, or if we've got an afternoon, we'll maybe just set up some games in the field and play a bit of a gymkhana or a few wee jumps. Depends what people want to do, actually. But they can be so much fun, and they're often sort of at the end of the week to demonstrate what you've done over the week. It's often been, a highlight.
Wonderful.
They're fun.
I think that's what we like, people to be open-minded when they come to us. Yes, it's about trail riding and seeing beautiful Scottish scenery. That's, of course, a big highlight. But, we want to be able to be a little bit flexible. If the weather's terrible one day and we think, well, being on the top of a mountain today where we're not going to see a view is not a great call. So let's do something different today. Like Nikki says, play games in the field, have a little blast around in the mud, do something different. Over the course of the 10 days we've got together, there will be nice weather. Scotland's not as terrible as it's made out to be. We'll get some beautiful days, and those are the days we'll use to go and get the big scenery, the sandy beaches. There's always something we can do on a rainy day. So there's, yeah.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask you about weather, and you answered my question. But when it sounds like you've got some ability to rearrange the schedule a bit based on what the weather is like, so you can kind of pick and choose to accommodate what's coming out of the sky.
I mean, people think it rains all the time in Scotland, and it does rain often. But the nice thing about Scotland is really 4 seasons in one day. You get, it rains, and then it's sunny, and then it's gales, and then it rains again, and then it's sunny again. And, you just deal with it. It rarely puts us off, and we don't tend to get very often continuous downpour. You get a bit of rain and then it's gone. And so, yes, it rains a lot in Scotland as a whole, but actually you don't really notice it. And we work around it. We've very, very rarely been stopped by unpleasant rain.
I think in 6 years, there's 2 days we haven't ridden. And it wasn't due to rain, actually, it was wind. We had 100-mile-an-hour winds, and nobody's riding in that, So actually the rain doesn't put us off. We change tact, we do something else. But I think Nikki's right about this 4 seasons in one day. Because of that, you want to think about that in terms of the kit you bring. You want stuff that's easy to get on and off. You don't want to be in some massive set of heavy leather overalls that take you 20 minutes to get off, because you're roasting by that point, and then you just got it all rolled away, and then a shower comes out and you're unpacking again. So you want things you can kind of quite easily whip on and whip off. You're not going to be wet for long. You just want something sort of instant and shower proof. Layers.
It's all about layers. Your t-shirt, thin fleece, thick fleece, and a waterproof, something like that. And then you can just change it up and down. That's
if you've got the right gear, the weather doesn't matter. Right?
That thing is bad weather, just the wrong clothes.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care what the weather's doing if I'm having fun. Not a problem. That it sounds like an amazing trip. I want to come, and I hope I'll get to come. Yeah. Are there any other tidbits about the trip, or anything that you want to share with the women about the trip that they can look forward to? Anything that I didn't ask you that you want to share with us?
I mean, the trip we put together, obviously the core of it is riding, but we have a whole farm here, and we like people to get involved with the rest of the farm, helping with the animals a bit, helping with the vegetables if they want to. I think people quite often love to get involved in the, like this self-sufficiency side of it. And was it?
Yeah.
I was just going to say,
do a little bit of this.
We're going to do a bit of this. This is some of the wool from our sheep.
Wonderful. Oh, and you have
some of the wool that we just made. So we've been, I don't know if you can see my spinning wheel over the back here.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand you have some lambs that are arriving as we speak, more or less.
Yeah, we've had our first 2 lambs just this afternoon.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting. Every year we have lambs, but we always get overexcited about it. They're so sweet.
Understandable.
Two little lambs.
We've got foals. We've got three foals due in May. So by the time you guys come, the fall, they'll be sort of 5 months old. So they'll still be scampering about. There's 26 horses here currently and 3 in the oven. So there should be something for everyone.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. You ladies are busy.
yes. Yes. But, yeah,
Keeps us out of trouble.
never a dull moment, I think.
Oh, it's so wonderful to talk to you, and I'm so looking forward to our trips there this year and hearing all the wonderful stories that come out of it, and fingers crossed I'll be able to get there and join you for a ride at some point. But it's been just such a pleasure talking to you both today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. We look forward to it.
All right, well, see you later.
Bye for now.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.